وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه أما بعد. Brothers, وتعالى, we are thankful to Allah first and foremost for having our brother Dr. Sheikh Ishki Bashir Yandu. Alhamdulillah. Sheikh, well, he doesn't like that. He is one of the um, back in, not only in Ghana, though he's from Ghana, but not only in Ghana, West Africa, go around being invited to give, talks. Currently, he's in Philadelphia, and Allah being so, Allah, I got a hint that he's here. So I was able to get in touch with him. Last week, I couldn't, secure him. So we made an arrangement that today, inshallah, he will give us the khutbah and as well as give us lecture. Today, inshallah, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he doesn't want to say much about him. That's okay. Al-Ma'ruf la yu'arraf. Somebody who is known already does not need to be introduced. So, Alhamdulillah, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, bless him and reward him for his time that and the knowledge that he's going to share with us, inshallah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين ولا عاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم عبد الله ورسوله أما بعد. We thank the Almighty Allah for giving us another opportunity to be here. None of us is guaranteed any extended time. Successfully, alhamdulillah. But you know very well that some people were not able to pray Asr because the Almighty Allah took them away. So it's a blessing that we find ourselves, here after Maghrib, and then we're going to listen to, a discussion. Without taking much of your time, I want us to look at the manners of the Muslim, because I believe it is something that we really. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in an authentic narration says, بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. I was sent to perfect people's manners. In another hadith, he says, if you do not have modesty or shyness, do whatever you want to do. إِذَا لَمْ تَسْتَحِي فَاصْنَعْ مَا شِئْتَ. So what is manners? And then why is it so important in Islam that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam categorically states that his message, his messengerhood, is based on perfection of manners? The first example I want us to look at for manners is our manners with the Almighty Allah, because that's the essence of our existence. Almighty Allah says in Surah Al-Dhariyat, verse 55, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ مَا أُرِيدُ مِنْهُم مِّن رِزْقٍ وَمَا أُرِيدُ أَن يُطْعِمُونَ. That I, the Almighty Allah, created the jinn and then the humankind for them to worship me. So that's the basis, and that's the foundation, and that's the real purpose as to why we were created, to come and have these good manners with Almighty Allah. Alhamdulillah, we are Muslims. And from time to time, we come to the masjid to come and pray. But then, what is the relationship we have with Almighty Allah? Is it just in the masjid and then outside the masjid that's it? Only Allah exists alone in the masjid? It's a question we need to ask ourselves, that what kind of relationship do we have with Almighty Allah? And how strong or otherwise is that relationship? Or how strong is that relationship? Because if that relationship is not strong, if that relationship doesn't have adab in it, then there's a serious problem. It's not enough that you come to the masjid. No. The Almighty Allah is not interested in the presence of your body in the masjid. He's rather interested in the presence of your conscience in the masjid. Because sometimes we come to the masjid, but our minds are somewhere else. Sometimes we come to the masjid, our bodies are here, but then our thinking and then our expectation is somewhere else. When we enter into salah, what is the demeanor we have in salah? When we come to the masjid for prayer, what's the idea behind it? Are we just coming in to just have our names written by the angels at the doorstep that we are in the masjid? Or we are really coming to have a covenant with Almighty Allah? It's something I want us to really ponder over, because the Almighty Allah is not interested in quantity, He's rather interested in quality. Because it doesn't matter how many nawafil you do, it doesn't matter how many raka'at you do. What matters is what's the quality of what you're doing. Sometimes in the salah, the imam is reading and then our minds are somewhere else. Sometimes if the imam reads long verses, you hear us chuckle, and then in the salah, it's because the imam is reading long verses. Then we forget that we are sitting or we are standing in front of the creator of the dunya. Let me give you an example. You are not far away from the White House, and then you get an invitation to come visit the president in the White House. Then you are made to sit in the lobby to wait for the president. I believe even if you are told to sit there for 6 hours to wait for the president, you will never get tired. You won't be tired. You won't be frustrated. You won't be irritated, because you want to meet the gentleman of the land, the chief commander of the armies. He is capable of giving you anything that any human being can give you on the surface of the earth. He is capable to just, by a stroke of a pen, he's going to guarantee that to you. So you wouldn't be irritated, you wouldn't be frustrated. But then you come and stand in front of the creator of the universe, and then you are in a hurry to leave. Where are you going to? Sometimes you hear people say, Imam, just hurry up, we have businesses to take care of. The one who is going to make the business guarantee, he's going to guarantee the business for you, is in the masjid, and you are in a hurry to go outside to who? If he doesn't endorse that business, it's not going to happen. So you rather have to take your time when you're here. We are not saying spend every hour here. No. What we are saying is that when you come here, the time that you spend in the masjid should be quality time with Almighty Allah. It's very important. And after salah, what is our manners with Almighty Allah after salah? The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us azkar after salah. How do we do those azkar? Honestly, how do you do them? Subhanallah, 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 hamna, 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 laka, 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 la, 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 la. We're outside, we're gone. It's strange that we say we love the Almighty Allah, we want to worship the Almighty Allah, but then we are not giving Allah our time and ourselves. We rather have time to sit at cafes or at games and sit there and then have quality time with friends. But then when we come to the masjid, we are in a hurry to leave. It's strange. That shows how our manners are with Almighty Allah. When we sit after salah to do adhkar, let's take our time and let's read those adhkar. One of the strangest things that, Come to do istighfar. You've agreed that you've done something wrong with respect to the Almighty Allah. And then you don't show good manners. We're gone. Let me give you an example. You go through a red light, and then a police officer gives you a ticket, and you decide to go to court to defend yourself. How will you speak in front of the judge? You take your time, right? Your Honor, it's a mistake. I was in a hurry. My wife just gave birth. I need to get food to her and stuff like that. So, in the euphoria, I didn't realize it was a red light and I went through it. You want to explain your case, you take your time. And then you commit an error with regards to the creator of the heavens and the earth. And you come to him seeking for forgiveness, but then you don't have manners. No. Our istighfar and our adhkar should be with decorum, should be with respect, should be with tranquility and peace and understanding towards the Almighty Allah. As I said earlier on, it's not about the numbers. It's about how qualified they are to stand in front of the Almighty Allah. One day Imam Ali radiallahu anhu came into the masjid and then he found a man doing istighfar the same way we do istighfar. He told him, istighfaruka hadha yahtaju ila istighfar. This istighfar you are doing, you need to do another istighfar so that the Almighty Allah will use the second istighfar to clear off the first one, because the first one is a sin. How well do we take our time with regards to the Almighty Allah? This is even for those of us who pray. How much more those of us who do not even care? Yes, we are Muslims. Muslims by name. We were born in a Muslim family. But then, what is our relationship with Almighty Allah? Most often than not, when we speak about the blessings of the Almighty Allah, what comes to mind is, a big house, a nice car, children. Wallahi, yes, there are mercies and blessings from the Almighty Allah. But then there are some blessings and mercies from the Almighty Allah that we don't put our minds to. A few of them, let me say even one or two of them. The first one is ni'matul Islam wal Iman. For you to be a Muslim, wallahi, is a ni'mah from the Almighty Allah. It's a blessing. It's not by your power, it's not by your might, it's not by your understanding or your deep reading. There are a lot of professors, there are a lot of thinkers, there are a lot of philosophers who do not even believe that the Almighty Allah exists. But then the Almighty Allah granted you Islam. Maybe you were born in a Muslim family. Maybe you reverted to Islam. There are points to note here. I don't like the word convert. I prefer revert. Because the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, كل مولود يولد على الفطرة. All of us were born on the right path, except that maybe the person will be born in a family that is not Islamic, and the family will have influence upon the person, or the community will have an influence on the person, and the person will go somewhere else. But then, if the Almighty Allah shines His light again on the person, then the person is reverting back to his original status, which is Islam. So the word convert, I don't really like using it. I prefer revert, because all of us were born Muslim according to the hadith of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So if the person has gone out because of one or two factors and the person is coming back, then it's a revert, he's returning home. So some of us might have been born in Muslim families, some of us have been reverted back. But then wallahi, it's a ni'mah, it's a mercy from the Almighty Allah. That is why when we go to Surah Al-Baqarah, the Almighty Allah says, أَمْ كُنْتُمْ شُهَدَاءَ إِذْ حَضَرَ يَعْقُوبَ الْمَوْتِ إِذْ قَالَ لِبَنِيهِ مَا تَعْبُدُونَ مِنْ بَعْدِي قالوا نعبد إلهك وإله آبائك إبراهيم وإسماعيل وإسحاق إلها واحدا ونحن له مسلمون. Yaqub alayhi salatu wasalam was on his deathbed going to Akhirah. And then he gathered his sons. His main concern was that after I'm dead, what are you going to do? These young ones that were giving birth to, these kids, when we die and then we go to the Akhirah, what is going to be their state? How are they going to live? It's important that we inculcate in them Islamic beliefs and Islamic understandings and ideologies, so that when we depart, there is going to be the next generation of Muslims who are going to uphold this deen. It's very, very important. We live in times whereby all kinds of ideologies are being thrown out there. So if you don't fine tune your family, your home, into this understanding of Islam, wallahi, you find yourself wanting. So the number one ni'mah from the Almighty Allah is ni'matul Islam wal Iman. The other ni'mah is ni'matul tadhkir, the ni'mah of admonishment from the Almighty Allah Himself. An example is winter, you're driving in your car, you have your heater on, and then someone stands by the roadside with a placard that says, I'm homeless, I need help. The Almighty Allah sent that person to you for you to appreciate that you have a roof over your head in this weather. It's a ni'mah. And our minds do not go there. That is a ni'mah. Sometimes you eat, and then at night or later, you hear someone go through your trash can. What is he looking for? He's looking for food, your leftovers that you've thrown away. That is his number one menu that he's going to eat. It's a ni'mah from the Almighty Allah. Allah. Some of us might not even visit the hospital in a year. But you go to the intensive care unit, and some people, with all their monies, have tubes through their noses, into their throats, into their stomachs. Their food needs to be turned into paste before they'll be able to eat it. But you can eat anything you want. You eat burgers, you eat fries, you eat chicken, you drink lemonade, you do all the way you want to do, and you're not having any problems. Allah ni'mah from the Almighty Allah. So all these things come to play for us to understand what are our manners towards the Almighty Allah. What manners do we have with Almighty Allah in terms of our relationship with Almighty Allah, in terms of our worship with Almighty Allah, in terms of even how we worship the Almighty Allah, how we carry ourselves when we deal with Almighty Allah? What is our adab when we enter into the presence of the Almighty Allah? Or is this just holiday as usual all the time? I don't think so. So I believe it is a time for us to really refresh the page with Almighty Allah. That is why the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam told the Sahaba, "Jaddidu imanakum." Always renew your iman. قالوا وكيف نجدد إيماننا يا رسول الله? How are we going to be able to renew our iman? He said, أكثروا من قول لا إله إلا الله. Always try as much as possible to have your tongues repeating La ilaha illallah. And not only the tongues, when the tongues repeat La ilaha illallah, the minds should really understand it, and then the hearts should grasp it. That's very important. So our manners with Almighty Allah, brothers and sisters, is very, very important. How do we deal with Almighty Allah in these things? The ni'mah of the Almighty Allah is plenty. And how are we going to pay the Almighty Allah? We can't. Wallahi. وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا. Even if we want to calculate or even make a list of the ni'mah that the Almighty Allah has given us, Allah will not be able to do that. A simple example. When people are in the intensive care unit, they put on them oxygen, right? And this oxygen you pay, or it's free, you pay. But here we are breathing the oxygen of the Almighty Allah free of charge. We don't have any machine here on our nose. If you breathe $1, $2, who will be able to pay? Nobody. So when we say ni'mah, it is not only quantified in the material things that we see. Ni'mah goes beyond that, and that is why it is important that we revere the Almighty Allah and have good manners with Almighty Allah. In our salah, in our adhkar, in our dealings with Almighty Allah, understand that the Almighty Allah sees us everywhere we are and whatever we are doing. The bulk of manners, the second type, has to do with our relationship with ourselves. And this is where a lot of Muslims are lacking. It's very painful that we've got to a stage whereby young people like myself, by virtue of reading 1 or 2 or 3 books, feel that everybody else is stupid and we are the wisest ones. That's the cancer of the ummah today. The younger generation doesn't respect the older generation. People who are in the ages of our fathers, we feel because we are with them in the masjid, or they are being friendly with us, or they are being nice with us, we want to disrespect them. Some of us believe that no, we live in a free world, so you can talk anyhow to anybody. So we realize that the older people are always growing older, and even the younger ones are dying early because there is no barakah in our life. There is no blessing in our lives because we feel we can talk anyhow to anybody. We feel we can deal anyhow with anybody. We don't expect the gray hair on the head of these people. And that's a problem. Wallahi, that's a cancer. Young people dealing with older people and talking to them anyhow, using any kind of word, any kind of language with them. It's scary. Wallahi. The disrespect that has entered into the ummah is so strange. You find young people who have studied 1 or 2 or 3 years, and then they want to disrespect a scholar who has spent 30, 40 years of his life studying. And they want to call them all kinds of names. It's a problem that we are facing. That the more red we become, the more mannerless we've become. And I'm not speaking about a particular community, I'm speaking about it's a cancer across the Muslim world now. A young man would just mount Facebook and then he would just be sending aspersions and casting aspersions on other people, just speaking anyhow, disrespecting them. Some young people even disrespect their own teachers, the teachers who taught them. By virtue of the fact that he's been to Islamic universities to go and study, whether in Medina or Azhar or wherever in the world, he feels that the scholars who taught him Alif, Ba, Ta, Tha, because he now has a degree, whether master's or PhD, he feels that all of them are stupid. Excuse my language. And this is what is killing the Ummah now. The disrespect for the elderly. Wallahi, there are people who might not have studied much in Islam. He might be in the service of the masjid for 17, 20, 25 years of his life. He might be someone who comes to the masjid to sweep, and then he calls azan. Wallahi, when we disrespect those kinds of people, that is when the barakah is lifted out of our lives. And this is what we don't understand. And some of us, we hide behind the veil of, I'm speaking the truth. No. You speak the truth, yes, but then you don't speak it anyhow. There are ways through which the truth is spoken. Abbas, the uncle of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was asked, "Ya Abbas, you and the Prophet, who is older?" He said, "The Prophet is older than me, but I was born first." You get the message? He said, "The Prophet is older than me, but I was born first." He feels shy to say, "I'm older than the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam," when in fact he is older than the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is the adab that we need to have. Wallahi, it's not about you reading all kinds of books. It's not about you being, going, to study in places of higher institution. That's not it. How is your relationship with the people? How well do the people come closer to you to drink from that fountain of knowledge that the Almighty Allah blessed you with? Or is it that people are scared to come closer to you because you've turned yourself the home secretary of Jannah? You put those you want into Jannah and take those you want out of it. During the Meccan period, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was in the outskirts of Mecca, and then an old woman saw him. She's gone to firewood. So after tying the firewood together, she tried lifting it and she realized that it was very heavy. So she saw him passing by. She called him, "Young man, come here." And he came and said, "I want you to help me to carry the firewood." So he lifted it up and he realized it was very heavy. So instead of placing it on her head, he placed it on his head. And she looked at him. Are you from this city? He said, yes. She said, no, you're not from here. I asked her why. She said, the young men in Makkah will not help you. Even if you call them, they won't even mind you, they won't even respond. But you responded, you pick it up and you place it on your head. He said, yes. You're an old lady and it's very heavy, you can't carry it. The young people listening, how many times do you see an elderly man in the masjid hold a box, bring it to the masjid, you take it from him or you leave it with him? Listen, it doesn't matter wherever you are in the world. Islam has an adab. It doesn't matter whether you are American or you are Indian, you're Pakistani or you are African. It doesn't matter. Islam has adab. When a young person sees an older person carrying something, we take it from them. That's the adab. When a young man is entering a building and an old man is coming out, we the young people, we stand aside and then the old people come out. We don't move shoulder to shoulder with them. Some of us even end up banging their shoulders with our shoulder. It's not adab. Islam doesn't know this. Understand that. When older people are having a discussion, you the younger one, you keep quiet and then you listen. You only talk when you're told to talk. This is not oppression. This is the adab of Islam. That is why when the older Sahaba are speaking, the younger Sahaba like Abdullah ibn Abbas and Abdullah ibn Umar, they keep quiet and then they listen. That's where they pick wisdom and knowledge. There's an old African proverb that says, where the old man sits and sees, you the young man, even if you climb the tall Iroko tree, you won't say it. Whatever you, when you climb the tree, you won't say it. It's not oppression, neither is it disrespect. But someone who was lived for 70, 80 years of his life, and then you are only 20 or 25, you can't tell me you have the same experience and same exposure as them, or you know like them. Of course, there are things that you might know that they do not know. Of course, it's there. We are not denying that fact. But then revering them and then respecting them and then giving them that adab that Islam teaches us, wallahi, is what we need to bring back the barakah in the life of our young people. This is what we need. Respect the elderly. Respect our parents. Respect our fathers. Respect our mothers. Wallahi, this is what Islam is all about. If an elderly person is in the age of your father, he is like your father. That is why someone asked the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ya Rasulullah, after the death of my parents, is there any right they still have over me? The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam enumerated some, and part of them he said, you should maintain kinship ties with the friends of your father and the friends of your mother. It means after the death of your parents, their friends or their brothers or their sisters or their colleagues or their cousins take that position of your father and your mother. This is Islam. This is Islam. One day the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was mounting the minbar, and the Sahaba heard him say Amin, Amin, Amin 3 times. And then they asked him, why did you say Amin 3 times? We didn't hear anybody do any dua. We didn't hear you say any dua, but you're doing Amin, Amin 3 times. Why? He said, amongst those Amin, it was Jibril who came to do dua. He said, may he be cursed. May his nose be dragged on the floor. One of his parents alive, and then he didn't use them to get into Jannah. May he be cursed. To have one of your parents alive, that is a door for you to get to Jannah, and then you didn't make good use of it. You wasted it. You talk anyhow to your father, you speak anyhow to your mother, you curse them, you do whatever you want to do towards them because you feel you are in a free world. You are an independent, strong person, so you can talk anyhow to your parents. Wallahi, you are in serious disaster. You are in serious disaster. Uququl walidain is one of the greatest sins anybody can commit. Disrespect to parents. It's the greatest, one of the greatest sin anybody can ever commit. When you observe the Quran, Anytime the Almighty Allah speaks about His rights, He brings next to it the rights of parents. وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا وَاعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. What is our manners with our parents? And parents, let's build the kind of atmosphere in the home that will inculcate this teaching to the kids. It's important. Let's build a kind of atmosphere in the family that the young people will realize the importance of respect. And not only you. I remember back home in Africa when we were kids, if you do something wrong in the streets, wallahi, before you get home, someone will discipline you in the streets. You get the discipline there. And woe betide to you if you go home and go and complain. So and so has done this to me. He's disciplined me. When you are asked, what did you do? And then you give an answer, and then it is wrong, you receive double of what you received outside. This is the adab. And unfortunately, we're losing it because we've copied all kinds of things from somewhere. Other people's ideologies, other people's lifestyles, we've copied it. So we're losing that barakah. We're losing that importance, that garnish that makes us unique and different as a community. Apart from parents and teachers, what's the relationship we have with our age mates? It's very important. Even before that, what the relationship we have with our shuyukh, our imams. Your imam man. No, there is a language and then there is a tone with which we speak to everybody. It's not everybody that you use your jargons with. Let's understand that. It's not everybody that you do with whatever you want to do. There is a language and then there is a way we use the language with everybody. Don't talk down to your imam. Don't disrespect your imam. Don't cast aspersions, and it doesn't help because these imams stand in front of us to lead us in salah. They lead us in Jum'ah. When we have marriage ceremonies, they officiate the marriage ceremonies. When there's janaza, they do the janaza. The least we can do is at least keep quiet, not disrespect them. I'm not saying that if you have an issue with the imam, you cannot discuss it with him. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that if the imam does something that is wrong, you can't call his attention to it. That's not what we are saying. All we are saying is that have respect for people in leadership positions. You might be the father of the imam, but then try as much as possible to have a relationship with the imam in a way that denotes that he is the imam. And that's it. And the imams too, let's respect the congregation. Alhamdulillah, I'm the one sitting here giving the lecture. If you have refused to come, will this lecture come on? No, it wouldn't. So in as much as we call for the respect of imams, we also call upon the imams to also respect the congregation. The fact that the Almighty Allah has bestowed upon you knowledge and ilm, that doesn't mean that everybody else is stupid. No. There are people in here who have their own expertise in their own fields that they will sit you down and they will teach you. But because we are in the masjid and you've studied the deen, you have been placed there. It is very important we understand that the right hand washes the left hand and the left hand washes the right hand. And that is how communication is built, and that's how respect is built within the community. So it's important we understand these points, that the manners of the Muslim, wallahi, is very, very important. How do we relate to each other in the masjid? Some of us are so pure that other Muslims are going to go to Jahannam. We are the only ones who are going to go to Jannah. That's how some Muslims feel. Some Muslims feel that they are the only ones that are going to go to Jannah. Everybody else is going to Jahannam. Some Muslims feel that what they say is always right. If you are either with them or you are against them, you can't have a divergent opinion. So they don't believe that. Some Muslims believe it's either their way or it's the highway. That's not the manners of the deen. That's not the adab of the deen. Yes, We will have divergent opinions whether we like it or not. We will have differences of opinion whether we like it or not. But then how do we accommodate these differences of opinion? It's very important. There are things that some people do that is wrong. I'm not saying every view is right. That's not what I'm saying. There are views that are deviant. There are views that are wrong. But then, even those with those deviant views and opinions, how do we relate with them? It's important. How do you relate with non-Muslims in the neighborhood, at the workplace, in schools? How do you relate with them? What is the message that we give them? Or are we so arrogant on our high horses that these people are going to Jahannam, so forget about them, let's only think about ourselves? No. Wallahi, your relationship with a non-Muslim, the manners that you show to them, can be a catalyst that will bring them towards Islam. Most often than not, it is not verbal da'wah that the Prophet Muhammad did. It was through his actions that people saw and they said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu annaka rasulullah. The story of the old lady that we were speaking about, when they got home, and then the Prophet Muhammad placed down the firewood and then he turned to leave. She said, wait, young man, I have an advice for you. He said, what's the advice? She said, I've seen that you are a boy with good manners, a young man with good manners. I want to advise you. In Makkah today, there's a young man who is destroying the manners of the young people. He's separating the fathers from the sons, the wives from the husbands. He's brought us great confusion in Makkah. When you meet such a person, don't sit with him. And then he asked her, do you know him? She said, no, I only heard about him. What is his name? She said, they say his name is Muhammad. And then he asked her, do you really know him? She said, no, I've never seen him before. I only heard his name. And then he told her, I'm Muhammad. She was like, no way, you can't be Muhammad. Muhammad is a bad boy. Muhammad can never have the qualities and the characters you have now. These manners that you're exhibiting, there's no way Muhammad can have that. He said, I'm Muhammad. She said, if you're really Muhammad, then ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu annaka rasulullah. Manners. There is a man by name Thumamah ibn Usal, Sayyidu Yamama. He was a bounty hunter. He captured the Muslims and then he kills them. One day, a group of the companions caught him. They brought him to Medina and then they tied him in the Masjid. And then they went and told the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ya Rasulullah, we've captured Thumamah. So Thumamah tied up. He told them, have you given him food? They said, Ya Rasulullah, this is Thumamah, and you're asking us, have you given him food? He said, yes, even if it's Thumamah, have you given him food? No. He said, bring him food. He ate. After eating, the Prophet Muhammad asked him, Ma wara'aka ya Thumamah? What brings you here, Thumamah? He said, In taqtul dhadamin. Muhammad, understand one thing. If you kill me, kill me. But no, I understand that when you kill me, I have people who will come in revenge. But then when you let me go, I'm going to thank you. Shukran. But then, if you're going to speak about me becoming a Muslim, then forget about it. That option is not on the table. If you will kill me, kill me. But when you kill me, no, I understand that there are people who will come in revenge. But then if you let me go, I'll thank you. But as for becoming a Muslim, forget about it. It's not going to happen. They did that for 3 days continuously. On the third day, the Prophet asked him the same question and he repeated the same thing. And then the Prophet Muhammad told them, Atliku Thumama, let him go. I said, Ya Rasulullah, we should let him go? He said, yes, let him go. When he was leaving, he said, they've taken my horse and they've taken my weapons. The Prophet said, give him back his weapons, give him back his horse. He went. After some few hours, he came back into Medina. And then he went straight to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu annaka rasulullah. And the Sahaba were like, what happened? You were here with us for 3 days and the Prophet always mentioned Islam to you. You didn't accept Islam. Now, why did you waste our time? He said, no. When I was with you, I was your captive. If I accept Islam, people will say that I accepted Islam because of my life. I saw how the Prophet Muhammad lived with you guys, how he sat with you, how he spoke with you, how he was soft and understanding and compassionate with you. If someone commits an error, he has a very beautiful way of correcting that person. If someone does something right, he has a nice way of commending that person. And I understood that this is the life that I want to live. But if I accept Islam there and then, it will mean that I'm doing so because of my life. But when you freed me and then I went away, I came back out of my own volition to accept Islam. How well are we living with non-Muslims for them to feel the fragrance of Islam, for them to accept Islam? How well are we living with even our own Muslims who are struggling with their Iman? How are we dealing with them for us to pull them and then bring them back? Or so long as he is a sinner, that's it? No. Each and every one of us is struggling with his Iman. All of us. None of us is perfect. It rises up, it falls down. It rises up, it falls down. That's where we are. All of us. The fact that you find yourself praying regularly, doing your best to please the Almighty Allah, and then you find someone else struggling with their Iman, whether it's a sister in hijab or a brother in whatever way that they're doing, yours is to help bring them closer to the Almighty Allah. Imam Asim al-Hakim was asked a question. Imam, I have a neighbor who is a Muslim, but then he doesn't come to the masjid to pray regularly. Imam, what is the hukm on this person? Al-Asim al-Hakim said that the hukm of the person is you help him to come to the masjid. That's the hukm. Help him to come to the masjid. How well do we make people feel comfortable in the masjid? How? Or when someone enters into a masjid, we have an eye that we look at the person top, down, sideways, and see whether this guy is on a manhaj or not. That's the problem. So instead of pulling people closer to the Almighty Allah, we drive them away. And sometimes those of us who wield those judgmental pens have a lot of issues under us that when it is exposed, we will not even stay in Maryland. We will run away and live even in America. Let's not be judgmental. Let's not be so mannerless that Muslims do not feel comfortable coming next to us. Let the Muslim feel comfortable coming next to you. No matter how sinful that Muslim is, no matter how deviant that Muslim is, no matter how wrong that Muslim is, let him feel comfortable coming next to you to feel the fragrance of Iman. Because if that Muslim who is a deviant, if that Muslim who is a sinner cannot have access towards people like you who are struggling to be on the right path, through whom is the Almighty Allah going to guide them? There is an athar of a man by name Abu Nuwas, a guy who is not, on the right path. When the Imam of the time was called to come and lead Janazah, and the Imam said, no, I'm not going to lead Janazah. This guy is a filthy guy. I'm going to lead the Janazah. The people who washed the body came to the Imam and said, Imam, we found a parchment of paper in his hand. And then it has a poem on it, some lines of poem on it. And then they read the poems. Ya Rabbi in azumat dhunubi kathratan, falaqad alimtu bi anna afwaka a'zam. In kana la yarjuka illa muhsinun, fabiman yaludhu wa yastajiru al-mujrim. أدعوك ربي كما أمرت تضرعا فإذا رددت يدي فمن ذا يرحم ما لي إليك وسيلة إلا الرجاء وجميل عفوك ثم أني مسلم. He says, Ya Rabb, O Allah, in عظمت ذنوبي كثرة, if my sins are huge and plenty in number, فلقد علمت بأن عفوك أعظم. Allah, I know that your forgiveness is bigger than my sins. In kana la yarjuka illa muhsinun. Ya Allah, if only good people come to your door, فَبِمَنْ يَلُوذُ وَيَسْتَجِيرُ الْمُجْرِمُ. Criminals like me to whom are we going to go for forgiveness? If only the masjid is there for the pious, for the good people, if criminals who want safe haven with the Almighty Allah, where are they going to go to? Mali is يا ربي إن عظم الذنوب كثرة فلقد علمت بأن عفوك أعظم إن كان لا يرجوك إلا محسن فبمن يليظ ويستجير المجرم أدعوك ربي كما أمرت تضرعا. I'm calling upon you, your Allah, in humility because you ordered that. فإذا رددت يدي فمن ذا يرحم. Oh Allah, if you reject my dua, who is going to have mercy upon me? Mali ilayka wasilatan illa raja. I don't have any path towards you, Allah, except hope. Wajamilu afwika thumma anni muslimu. And that I'm also confident of your forgiveness and because I'm a Muslim. Wallahi, our manners towards people should bring them closer to Islam. If our manners towards people is driving them away from Islam, then that is not Islam that we are practicing. We are practicing our whims and our caprices. I'm not saying that accommodates every kind of deviant behavior. No, that's not what we are saying. No. The doors for of the masjid for everybody to come and do whatever they want to do. No, that's not what we are saying. What we are saying is that live an exemplary lifestyle that people who want to come closer to the Almighty Allah will always say, if you want to have an understanding of the deen, go to so and so. He will take his time to explain and then get you closer to the Almighty Allah. Imam Shafi'i says, we are doctors. Ours is to cure the sick person and then destroy the disease. We don't destroy the person because of the disease, no. Doctors will not say, okay, fine, this person is struggling, let's kill him. When we kill him, we've cured the disease, right? But no, that's what doctors say. They try to cure the person. Manners is a very, very important thing that Muslims must hold up to. Manners between us and the Almighty Allah, how we relate with Almighty Allah, and manners with ourselves, whether we are dealing with older people, whether we are dealing with people in authority, whether we are dealing with imams, whether we are dealing with elderly people, whether we are dealing with our parents, even when we are dealing with younger people. How do we relate with them? It's very, very important. Even if he's your son, how do you relate with him? Even if she's your daughter, how do you relate with them? Wallahi, building such an atmosphere will help us in our day-to-day activities. I think it's almost time for Isha, and at least let's so that maybe some opinions and some suggestions. I like that. We're speaking for the past 45 minutes. So, in a nutshell, first and foremost, I want to thank the Almighty Allah for giving us the opportunity to be here. And then, secondly, I want to thank my father and then my Sheikh, Imam Firdaus, for giving us the opportunity to be here. And then the Masjid leadership, my new father here on the left, looking, handsome, beautiful. I always want to meet elderly people with gray hair. Meeting them, meeting them is a ni'mah, it's a blessing. Sitting with them for a minute, I pick a lot of lessons. Wallahi. And young people, try and do that. The elderly people, they might be jovial and nice with us. Yes, they're bringing themselves down to our level. Try as much as possible to pick, you know, lessons from their lives, from the way they speak, from the way they carry themselves, from the way they dress. All these things. So thank you very much for the opportunity, and all of us here in the masjid, those who came for Jum'ah, those who are here for the evening lecture. And I thank you very much. The reception has been very warm in this cold weather. Thank you very much. Jazakumullahu khairan. If you have any suggestions or we welcome them before the time for Salah. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wassalamu alaikum.
So, brothers, if there's any contribution and questions that you want to ask, inshallah.
If there are questions, the Imam will answer. Now, I'm still on my PhD. I've studied in Niger. I began my lessons, my classes in Ghana, my studies, both secular and then Islamic in Ghana. And then I have a diploma in basic education from the University of Cape Coast. And then I went to Niger, the Islamic University in Niger, and I studied Usuluddin. First degree, second degree Usuluddin. I based on tafsir and hadith. My PhD is mainly on tafsir. There is a tabi called Muhammad ibn Ka'b al-Quradi. He was born during the time of Imam Ali radiallahu anhu. And I'm collating his tafsir and then arrange them in the way they come chronologically in the Quran and then authenticate them. So that's what I'm doing. I'm into tafsir and hadith at the same time. That's what I'm doing, inshallah. I mean, thank you. Don't forget us in your prayers. You know, the other people, they don't have questions. Anytime they throw a question, you need to go to the library. Uh, compilation of hadith has a couple of hadith there concerning manners. That's number one. Number two, I urge brothers to read Riyadh al-Salihin of Imam al-Nawawi too. He has a lot of abwab there that speak about, manners and stuff like that. So this book, Riyadh al-Salihin, is very good and has been translated into English for those of us who don't understand the Arabic language. And uh, in general, a lot of books have been written on manners that we can get, but I prefer we get them directly from the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Imam al-Nawawi's Riyadh al-Salihin is a good book to look at because it's his book, his compilation of hadith in Riyadh al-Salihin is more of cleansing of the soul, tazkiyah in that regard. So it's a good book that you can have access to, inshallah. Muslims, we can come together to make our relationships easier. Yes. The first one is that, wallahi, let's cleanse our souls. Let's have ikhlas in whatever we're doing. If I'm meeting you, it shouldn't be because of any dunya, any benefit in the dunya. And this has been the problem of the Muslim anywhere we go. Anytime there is a meeting of mosques or masajid or masjid trustees, is always what I'm going to get from the meeting. If I'm not going to get anything, then that alliance is not going to happen. That has been a challenge everywhere you go in the world. So number one, when Almighty Allah said, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا, that come together, hold upon the rope of the Almighty Allah, and then don't split up. It's important we clean our soul, number one. Number two, adhere to the Kitab and Sunnah, based on the understanding of our pious predecessors. This is where we can meet. And let's understand one thing. The pious predecessors were many in number, and they disagreed on a lot of issues. So we could not have one single ideology that if you don't come on this ideology, then everything else is wrong. No, we don't have that in Islam. The Tawheed and the Aqidah is one. But then issues of furu, fiqh, there are differences of opinions in there. The most important thing is the Kitab and the Sunnah, and then the understanding of these past predecessors. That is our rope. So we don't hold one past predecessor and then leave the rest. No. We don't say we are this. And if so and so scholar says this, that's final. No. It's only the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam who, when he speaks, that's final. That's what Imam Malik said when he was standing next to the grave of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, "Kullu yukhadhu minhu wa yurad illa sahib hadha al-qabr." He said, each and every one of us, when we speak, either the people choose to accept it or they reject it, except the one lying in this grave. His statement is final. So the coming together of the Ummah is possible. But then we need to just cleanse our heart from our whims and our caprices and our personal desires. That is the number one cancer towards the coming together of the Ummah. Because at the end of the day, it's all about prestige. If I am not the leader of the board, then it's not going to happen. And then the whole meeting comes to an end. That's our problem. But if, for me, the most important thing is that the flag is raised up. It doesn't matter who raises the flag up. It doesn't matter who raises the flag up. If you raise the flag up, the flag is up. If he raises the flag up, the flag is up. But if I say I must be the one to raise the flag up, then I'll be fighting you who is raising the flag up. And that has been the problem of the Muslim community. It must be me, anania, personal interest, me. If it is not me, then it's not going to happen. If it is not me, then it's not going to happen. And that is the pain towards our unity as a Muslim community. But if the flag is raised up and we all follow, that is why when we go into any expedition during the time of Prophet Muhammad, he gives the flag to one person. That you raise the flag. In Ghazwat Mu'tah, what did he say? Ja'far ibn Abi Talib. After him, you. After him, you. After him, you, the community, should choose who is going to raise the flag. So when we take our personal interest from our hearts, the community will be unified, it will be strengthened. That I'm coming there because this is our leader. And then even though I'm more knowledgeable than him, even though I'm older than him, even though I have more money than him, so long as the community agrees that he is our Imam or he is our Amir, Sadaqallah al-Azim, it's over, it's done. But if I say no, who is he? When did he come? What does he have? Then now it's all about personal interest and our own whims and caprices. So my uncle, this is what your young nephew has concerning how the Ummah can come together based on the Kitab and Sunnah, understanding of the pious predecessors, and then we clean our hearts. We clean our hearts. If this guy is the leader, the community agrees, let's follow. And no machinations and no plotting behind, we'll see what is going to happen. We'll see what is going to happen. And then at the end of the day, we all lose. We all end up losing. Because if we do things and then the community cannot have a place to perform their congregational prayer, we've all lost. It doesn't matter who leads us. At the end of the day, if we don't have a head, what has happened to the Muslim in the world now is when the Khilafah was destroyed, that's it. Even though the Khulafa at that time were from a particular group of people, but then the Ummah was there, it survived, even though there was only head. But now that the head has been chopped off, you realize that we are just everywhere anyway. The Caliphate wanted to build, or it even built a railway from Istanbul to Medina or Mecca. Yes, they did that. Or they were in the verge of finishing. And then the Caliphate was destroyed in the 1920s. We became individual understandings and individual, and then a Muslim, you want to go to another Muslim country, you must get visa before you go to that Muslim country. But that's not how it was. The Prophet Muhammad in his hadith said, if you get to a point whereby a woman will be on her camel to Mecca Hajj, and then she doesn't fear anybody except the Almighty Allah. She doesn't fear for any safety. But what has happened to the Muslim woman? We are separate. Do his tradition, my Imam says so, our tradition says so, and this is what we believe in, and if you're not with us, and stuff like that. And it has weakened us, actually. It has weakened us. Let's come back to the Kitab and Sunnah. Let's study our religion. This is also a problem. Muslims, we don't study our religion. We don't learn. You don't learn. So you find out when someone reads one or two books, he becomes a sheikh, and then you Jahannam, you heaven, you hell, you. That's it. That's the only thing we know now. That's the only thing we know now. So may the Almighty Allah safeguard us. I think it's time, right? But we take one more contribution, and then we pray. I think that's it. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين والسلام عليكم. Can I have both of y'all? Yes, and